Welcome to Brothers of the Word, because, brother, you need the Word. And I am now in the middle of a series simply entitled Contentment. And the series came as George and we were praying one morning. And in my prayer, I was just thanking God for contentment, because I was just as content as I could be. And I was saying, Lord, I don't ask you for anything else. I just thank you that I am content. And he then spoke, that's going to be your next series. And I then asked George, I said, George, give me a word that corresponds to each letter of the word contentment. And the first message in the series was from the letter C, which stood for care. The second letter, which was the last message, was the letter O, which was opinion, and how your opinion of life and of things determines your contentment. And for the letter N, George spoke new. New. And I want to talk to you today from contentment, a new thing. Some of you have never been content with life. You've always had a complaint. Something has always been wrong. Somebody has always been wrong. Some of you have never been truly content with life. One of the greatest verses in the Bible, and it's hardly ever spoken of, is actually by Esau. You remember Jacob and Esau, the two brothers, and how Jacob kind of hoodwinked Esau out of his birthright and fooled his daddy, and when Esau found out about it, Esau said, I'm going to kill this rascal. So Jacob had to go away, and he went away, and he stayed with his uncle Laban, and you don't know the story, but most of you know the story. And when he was coming back, Esau was coming to meet him, and Jacob was terrified about Esau, because he figured Esau was coming to kill him, and Esau had his 300 men with him. He had this big old army. Jacob only had all his wives and his children and servants and that kind of thing, but he had all this flock of cattle, and he had sent all this stuff ahead as a gift for Esau to appease Esau's anger so Esau wouldn't kill him. And the words that Esau spoke, they're perhaps some of the greatest words in the Bible, but nobody ever credits Esau for this. But when you read it, you can see the wisdom, and you can kind of get the picture of it. When Jacob sent all of this stuff, and see, back in that day, your herds and your flocks and your cattle and your sheep and your goats, that was your money. That was stock. That's why they call it livestock. That was your wealth. Your wealth was not in the bank. It wasn't in cryptocurrency. Your wealth was in your flocks. So when Jacob sent all of this stuff to Esau, Esau said 3 words to send back to Jacob. Esau refused all of the stuff. Esau told Jacob 3 words. He said, I have enough. And those are 3 words so many people can never get to these days. I have enough. And you will never get to true contentment until you can speak those 3 words. I have enough. Now, it does not mean that you don't continually try to improve your situation. It doesn't mean you just lay down. No. What it means is you have a mentality of contentment that I have enough. The Western world and the Western mentality has you on a constant treadmill of more. And it's not just the Western world. This was in the ancient world too. When God told the kings, he said, look, don't you all have too many wives and concubines, don't have too many chariots, don't have too much gold and silver. He said, look, don't get all this stuff. And hardly any of the kings listened to him. They had all these wives and concubines. They looked like, as a man, looked like one. I'm going to be honest about it. I could see having more than one. I'm going to just be honest about that. I can see having more than one, because sometimes, some they got an attitude, they got a headache, this kind of stuff. So look, you got a headache. Hey, you come on over here. I understand that. So I can see, I'm being real with you. I can see having more than one. But once you get 2, and then 3, it starts getting that starts getting a little. Then you get 4 and 5. 5 about the limit. 5 is about that upper limit. Is about what you can comfortably handle without just a whole lot of hassle. So God never told the kings don't have more than one wife. He never told them that. He said don't get too many. Don't get and see he didn't fuss about Solomon. He had all these foreign ways. He just went all over. But I can't. Beyond 5, that's about practically the limit. But they still don't have enough. And sometimes with the mentality of I have enough, if you don't have that mentality, you get 5 women. Then you want 6 women, then you want 7 women, then you want 8 women, then you want 9 women, you got 10 women, and then you see somebody else over there got 12 women. You say, Lord, they got 12 women, I got but 10 women. And this is what happens. Now see, it's funny, it sounds crazy. But you'll see some folk and they got $2 million. And you say, Lord, I don't have but $1.5 million. And this fella, he got $20 million. And then it gets on even more ridiculous. They got $30 billion. And I'm way down here on the list in this Forbes 400. They got $30 billion. I don't have but $25 billion. And it gets to a point where it is simply never enough. And most people can never get to the point of where Esau was. Where he sent, and see, we view all this negative stuff about Esau, but when you look at the man, he said, I have enough. I appreciate all this stuff you're giving me, but I have enough. So there is a point of contentment, and it requires a new something for many of you to get to this point, because many of you have never had enough. And the Bible simply says this in 2 Corinthians 5:17, that any man in Christ is a new creature, and old things are passed away. See, when many of us hear new, we immediately think about new stuff. Some of you all are going to think about, well, Pastor, tell you the truth, now that you mention it, if I did have me a new wife, I'd be much happier. If I did have me a new husband, I'd be much happier. And I'd even be happy if I can get 2 new. Yeah, and right now, if the laws change, some men tomorrow would have 2 new wives. If I could get me 2 new, I'd be happier. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Because after about a year, that would not be enough. If any man is in Christ, he is a new creature. It's not talking about stuff. Not if you can get you a new job. Not if you can get you a new house. Not if you can get you a new car. It's not talking about stuff. It's talking about a new state of mind. And you've got to get to a new state of mind of where I have enough. Nobody's ever said you need to be like Esau. You need to be at a point, if you're ever going to have true contentment, I have enough. And it does not mean that you're not progressing, but it does mean you're at a state of mind, you're at a state of life where you understand and you recognize, I have enough. And for many of us to get to that state, it's going to require a new state of mind. You're going to have to leave the typical Western state of mind, because the typical Western state is a state of mind where I always need bigger and better. It's the new and improved philosophy of America. You don't want the old, you got to have the new and improved. We're waiting right now. I've got one of the most advanced cell phones in the world. It's called the Galaxy Fold Z2. Real serious little phone. It folds out to a tablet. Oh, it's serious. But you know what's coming out in 2 months? This is the Galaxy Z Fold 2. You know what's coming out in 2 months? Yes, exactly. The Galaxy Z Fold 3. And once the 3 comes out, now this is the most advanced phone on the planet. Once the 3 comes out, all of a sudden the Galaxy Z Fold 2 won't do. And see, this is the problem. This is the thing that takes most people out of contentment. Now the thing that you have won't do because there is something new, and it's new stuff. It's not a new state of mind. And so we've got to move to the point where our minds are renewed. Any man who is in Christ is a new creature, and old things are passed away. And see, we've got to move away from, if we want true contentment, we've got to move to where we are in Christ. And in Christ, it's a whole different focus. That's why Jesus never took anybody to a whole lot of stuff. Matter of fact, he took them to the opposite. Don't carry anything with you. Get rid of your purse. Don't take an extra staff. Don't take an extra pair of shoes. Don't take an extra coat. Don't take anything. Don't take any wallet to put any stuff in. He had to take them to a whole new state of mind. And then when they got through with all of the mission, he asked them simply this one question: have you lacked anything? And they said, no, Master, not a thing. We haven't lacked anything. See, when you're able to move to a point of contentment, you're going to find that you're going to need this new state of mind. And this new state of mind will make all of your old stuff look new. It'll make all of your old stuff look new when you can see it through new eyes, when you can see it through a new state of mind. Everything looks new. Today is a day that we're talking about fathers and honoring fathers. And I remember something God spoke to me about 2 or 3 months ago. And he said, one of your children is going to change the world. And you don't know which one it is. And I don't. But when I got that word, I began to look at each one of my sons differently. And I began to look at them and I began to wonder which one of them will change the world. And I began to see qualities within each one of them that had the potential to change the world. But whenever God speaks something to you, it's usually on multiple levels. I have biological children, but I also have other children. I ain't got no more children outside of my 4 sons. Pastor, I thought he had. No, I don't. I don't have any more biological children out there. But I have people who I mentor. Even I consider everyone in this congregation to be like a child and be children, because you teach the same energy that I spend with my children is the same energy that I spend with you. And I begin to see things on different levels. And I don't know who's under the sound of my voice now who will change the world. I look up at the AV department. That's the department I used to be over. That's what I used to do. That's why I started in ministry, was in AV. And right now we're getting ready to begin an advertising program that's going to just bring more and more. It has to come through the AV department. I don't know what that'll change the world. And sometimes when you begin to understand and you see things through new eyes, and every one of my sons I look at with a different eye, because I don't know which one of those will change the world. And sometimes you cannot even see what's in a child. You don't even know what will come out of them down the road. You have no idea. When I was their age, a preacher was the absolute last thing on my list. You know how you have a bucket list? That wasn't on the list. It was the absolute, and I had people prophetically telling me, I said, you missed that. I just told you, you have absolutely missed that. I have no desire, I have no intention, I have no destiny whatsoever about being a preacher. God knows some things within you that you don't even know. But I will tell you, I got some children out there, y'all gonna change the world. And you don't know who it is. And see, because I don't know which son it is, I got to pour everything I got into all of them because I don't know which one it is. And God said, you don't know which one it is. And I had a conference with all of them, and I told them that. And I had each one of them go down all the characteristics they could see about themselves and each one of their brothers, and how each one of them could change the world. And everybody could see something about themselves, and every one of them could see something about their other three brothers in terms of how they may be able to change the world. And I just know some of you, and some of you I don't even know that well. But I can see traits, and I can see characteristics, and I can see seeds of greatness in you. And some of you, God has whispered some stuff too. And I can hear him speaking right now. You're not too old. I had an experience last week. I drive my little Miata most of the time. And I had just left one meeting, came to my office, pulled into my parking spot, and went to shift my car into park. And the gear shift knob wouldn't shift. I couldn't press the button down because it was stuck. And I could only shift from drive to neutral, but it wouldn't go in reverse and it wouldn't go in park. So there I am sitting there in my parking spot, and the car won't turn off because I couldn't turn it off because I couldn't get it in park. So I called my oldest son because he used to have a Miata. I said, son, who did you take your car to get it fixed? Because I don't want to take it back to the dealer because the last time I took it back to the dealer tried to rip me off and he lied about some stuff. So I said, I don't want to go back there. So he told me this place, and I called the place and I told them, I said, I got a problem. I have a late model Miata and the button won't go down and I can't shift it into park or reverse. He said, I never heard of that. So I didn't call the dealer. I called the dealer. I said, look, this is the problem. I talked to a service advisor. I said, come on. He said, I never heard of that. So I called back to the first place. I said, do you have time I could bring it in today? Maybe you can take a look at it. So I drove over. He took a look at it. I called an Uber back and left it. And he called me up and he said, your shift knob has torn to pieces on the inside. He said, we don't work on anything here but Miatas. I've been working on Miatas for decades. He said, I've never seen this before. Sometimes when a man who's an expert in the area says, he never seen that before, kind of let you know something's a little strange about this thing. He said, I've never seen any Miata with the issue your car had. I've never seen this before. Then he said, but. He said, it's a good thing your shift knob did tear up. He said, have you noticed there's been some oil leaks under your car? I said, I sure did notice that. I said, I noticed I had some oil under my car. I figured the motor was just getting old because, you know, sometimes when stuff get old, stuff don't work the same way it does when it's young. So I said, I figured my motor was just getting old. It was starting to leak. He said, no, that's not the problem. He said, these motors hardly ever leak oil. He said, who changed your oil last? I said, the dealer. He said, they left the oil drain plug loose. He said, your oil drain plug was about to fall out. And if it had fallen out, all of your oil would have drained out in just a half a minute, and it would have torn up and seized your motor, and you'd have to buy a whole new motor. So when the shift knob tore up, there was a reason to get me into the repair place to tighten up the screw that would have popped out and ruined my motor. But it also told me something else about how it tore up and what happened. And I could hear God speaking to me. You're getting older. And when people get older, they have a tendency, they want to shift into park in reverse. I ain't letting you shift into park nor reverse. He said, you can only go in drive or neutral. You ain't going in park and you're not going in reverse. Some of you may think your time has passed, that you're too old, and God is telling you right now, you are not too old. Moses was way up in years before he accomplished what he needed to accomplish. Abraham was way up in years before he accomplished what he needed to accomplish. Some of you right now, you're thinking you're too old. God says, I ain't letting you ship into a park. You want to get somewhere and park and just sit down and do nothing. No. You got too much life left in you. You got too much energy left in you. Yes, you may be, I'm old enough to retire. I'm old enough to draw Social Security. I'm old enough to sit down and I'm financially set where I really don't have to work anymore. God's not going to let me do that. And he's speaking to somebody right now. You still have enough energy. You still have enough life in you right now to change the world. But often we just want to shift into park because that's what everybody else is doing. You are not everyone else. If you are here, you are different. You are not everyone else. And right now, you can just even feel a certain energy and a certain revival coming in you right now. And you can say to yourself, I can do this. I got a lot ahead of me. And that's why one of the things I do have on my phone, I got my countdown calendar. And my countdown calendar tells me exactly, I have 51 years and 5 months to go. And what am I going to do with that? I'm not going to be in park, and I'm not going to be in reverse. And neither should you. If God has given you breath in your body, and a sharpness of mind and a clarity, you need to get to moving, not sit down. And I understand sometimes we want to go and take our ease, but you got too much to offer the world. And if you just change one person, you change the world. Some of y'all looking good, and you're feeling good, but you want to shift in the park. And you're going to need to have a new mindset for that. Any man who is in Christ is a new creature, and old things are passed away. You're new. You're young. You're full of energy. You're full of life. You're full of potential. I just heard Dinah sing that song. Dinah, I don't know how old you are, but you ain't no spring chicken. She's 60. That's the time most folk are thinking about doing nothing. And if you can move like that, if you can sing like that, nobody 20 can out-sing you. And I don't think they can out-move you too good. So if you've got that kind of energy, and if God has given you the power, use it. Use it. One of your children will change the world. Colonel Sanders did not start KFC until he was 65. You know, and some of y'all going to leave the church right now and go in and eat some of the chicken Colonel Sanders started. He didn't start KFC until he was 65. You got a destiny ahead of you. And just because you may have some age on you, and just because there may be a screw loose that needs tightening up, tighten it up and keep going. God has a destiny for you. He has a destiny for me, and I have to fight the urge to stop and do nothing. Because that's what the world will tell you to do. Just like the man who says, I'm going to build me some new barns and take my ease. And Jesus said, thou fool, tonight thy soul will be required of you. The minute you decide to stop doing anything, you speed and accelerate death. Get going, get moving. Have a new mindset. Go somewhere new. Some of you all have a bucket list and you done forgot all about your bucket list. Do some new stuff. Have a new mentality. Now, you may not have to just do all kind of super adventurous stuff, but do something new. I've actually, my adventure level has slowly been decreasing, but I am wiping off the stuff off my bucket list. The last time I went in, now I've only jumped out of a plane one time, but I went as high as I could go. And once I did, I said, I ain't doing this anymore. But there are some things that are still on your bucket list. And you may find once you get to doing them that you got more life in you than you imagined. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature, and old things are passed away. You've got to have a new mindset. For those of you, and you've never truly been content with life, stop trying to change the stuff out there and change the stuff in here. If any man or woman is in Christ, they become a new creature, and old things, old depression, old disappointments, old failures, they pass away. I thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word. You can go to brothersoftheword.com and listen to the entire Contentment series absolutely free of charge. Thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word, because, brother, you need the Word.